we have collaborated with more than 90 MSMEs across ACP countries, working to strengthen their business skills, identify the most promising enterprises, and support the development of the competitive agricultural value chain. So our contribution is not limited to financial support. We also provide concrete technical expertise as well as administrative and managerial and also leadership capacities to ensure the long-term growth and resilience of our partners' businesses. As the saying, maybe you know Germany a bit, we say everything has an end except the sausage, which has two. And so the business support facility too will one day come to a close. So for this reason, for us, it is essential that we prepare our matching grant fund partners to secure additional financial resources that will allow them to sustain and scale their businesses beyond the lifetime of this project. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity to explore together with all of you solution for long-term financing of businesses and innovative business ideas in the agricultural sector. Today's expert talk will follow as Monsieur le Modérateur, as he said, bringing really together specialists to discuss practical and policy intervention that can improve access to finance for SMEs. My special thanks go to Dr. Rauda Sembene, the CEO of Africatalist, for joining us today. But I would like also extend my appreciation to our three distinguished experts on agri-finance, so who will guide us through mechanism to strengthen financial resilience for agri-SMEs, namely Dr. Herman Massan, the country director of IFAD in Côte d'Ivoire, Mr. Robin Boradboum, senior investment manager from Campani, and Mr. Chola, the program officer from Agribusiness and investment within Auda NEPAD. Then, last but certainly not least, I'm really delighted to welcome one of our matching grant fund partners, Mr. Diallo, the general manager of Agribusiness, who will share his experience and journey in mobilizing resources to grow his agricultural venture. So I hope you will enjoy the conversation that follow. And with these remarks, I'm really pleased to welcome you again to this expert talk, Access to Finance. And I would like to hand over to our moderator, Ms. Dr. Hamadi Diop. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn, for your thoughtful and energizing remarks. We take notes really on the fact there is no value chain development without MSMEs. And then we need to sustain the existing MSMEs through financial support. Let me now move to our next opening intervention. So I'm pleased to invite Dr. Dauda Sembene, who is the CEO of Africatalist, to deliver his opening remarks. Dr. Sembene, you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much, Amadi. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you very much, Lynn Felkotte. I hope I pronounce it right. And thanks for your opening remarks. I would like to welcome everyone to this webinar co-hosted by GIZ, Auda NEPAD, IFAD, and Africatalist. For those who don't know Africatalist is a global development advisory based in Senegal and Kenya. And our mission is to very much facilitate and build partnerships between African local actors and external actors and development partners. And the idea also is very much to promote innovative and evidence-based solutions to Africa's development challenges. And those development challenges are many, as you know. And one of the key challenges that Africa faces is food insecurity. Last year, WHO came up with a report, the report on the state of food security and nutrition in the world, that estimate that global hunger has been declining, but it has been increasing in Africa. And more than 300 million people on the continent, we are talking about more than 20% of the population in the continent, were affected by hunger. And definitely, under those circumstances, when you see those figures, you very much agree with us that there is a need for urgent action to address food insecurity in Africa and around the world. And that everyone agree that requires transforming agri-food systems. And this is what African stakeholders and their partners have attempted to do earlier this year in Kampala. And they came up with the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, CAADP, Kampala Action Plan for the next decade, starting from next year, which set an ambitious agenda for transforming agri-food system in Africa. So maybe just to recall, 6 strategic objectives that the CAADP Action Plan has identified. The first one being to intensify sustainable food production and agro-industrialization and trade in Africa. The second is to ensure food and nutrition security. Third, boosting investment and inclusive financing for agri-food systems, particularly for agri, micro, and small medium enterprises, farmer-led enterprises, and climate resilience value chains. Fourth, advancing inclusion and equitable livelihoods, particularly for women, youth, and vulnerable groups. Fifth, building resilient agri-food systems on climate shocks and disruption. And last but not least, strengthening agri-food system governance, including to enhance policy coherence and accountability. So why are we here today? I think this webinar is convening key stakeholders that are playing a key role in very much making progress towards those priorities and objectives that are set forth in the CAADP Action Plan. And our idea today is very much to convene a very distinguished panel of experts and representatives of bilateral, regional, and multilateral organizations to very much explore together innovative financing approaches for achieving agribusiness transformation in Africa. So the objective of this webinar today is very much to share lessons and best practices on how we could improve finance for agribusiness in agribusiness transformation in Africa, what type of financing model has proven to be effective for agri-SMEs in Africa, and how we can replicate them. And the idea also is to explore opportunities for promoting sustainable financial inclusion. And last but not least, this is an opportunity also to identify what impactful partnerships and collaboration among micro and small medium enterprises, financial shareholders, but also bilateral, regional, and multilateral organizations. So this is the reason today we have lined up a very distinguished panel of experts, agribusiness leaders, and as well as representatives from bilateral, regional, and multilateral organizations. Let me once again, before closing, thanks our partners in making this happen. Of course, starting with GIZ, AUDA, NEPAD, IFAD, and many other partners who very much support in the background to make this a reality. But last but not least, I cannot stop without very much thanking our panelists who are here and who are gonna very much make us learn a lot and give us a lot of insight about how we can progress and very much make some inroads in financing agribusiness transformation. And of course, I cannot stop without thanking you on the audience who are participating from all over. We can see that we have more than 350 people around in this webinar, which actually very much show how much interest there is for this type of discussion. So without any further ado, I'm gonna stop here and look forward to the productive discussions and insight that we will be hearing from our panelists. Thank you very much, Amadi, and thanks everyone.
No, thank you. Let me thank our two senior who gave us basically the marching order for this webinar. I don't know whether we have a way to upload, but I'm gonna clap for them. we will now proceed with our panelist introduction. But before we do so, I know we have, as the CEO of Africa Catalyst indicated, we have about 360 people who are online. So we offer basically this webinar in 2 languages, one being French and one being English. So at the bottom of the Zoom platform, there is like a circle that looks like a globe. If you click on it, you will see on the top somewhere it says interpretation. So you can click on that one and you can choose the language in which you want to receive basically the webinar. Donc pour les gens qui sont en ligne, nous offrons ce webinaire en 2 langues, une étant le français et la deuxième étant l'anglais. Donc, en bas au niveau de la plateforme, il y a un menu, il y a un cercle qui ressemble à un globe. Si vous mettez votre pointe sur ce cercle, vous allez voir un menu où ça dit Interpretation. Et si vous cliquez sur Interpretation, vous allez avoir la langue en français ou en anglais et vous choisissez la langue dans laquelle vous voudrez recevoir le webinaire. So, we'll now proceed with our panelist introduction. I will invite each panelist to briefly introduce themselves and share one key highlight from their work that is most relevant to today's theme. So each panelist will have about 3 minutes. So let me start with Mr. Eric Sile, who is a team leader for the Agribusiness Facility for Africa at GIZ. Eric, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amadi, and good afternoon to everyone. So I won't take much time. My name is Eric Sile, as Dr. Job has introduced me. I am the team leader for Agribusiness Facility for Africa based in Accra, in Ghana. My colleague Lynn had just said a lot about the Agribusiness Facility, which is part of a joint action that we are implementing together with another project called MOVE. So the business support facility actually provides a matching grant fund to micro, small, and medium enterprises in 4 value chain, namely cashew, cocoa, livestock, and maize. So we will have a little bit more on this as we go on with the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Next is Dr. Herman Messan, Country Director for IFAD in Côte d'Ivoire. Dr. Messan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Diop. So I'm Herman Messon, Country Director for IFAD. IFAD is, in Côte d'Ivoire, IFAD is the International Fund for Agricultural Development. It is a specialized UN agency, and at the same time, it has a dual mandate of being also an international financial institution dedicated to eradicating rural poverty and hunger. So we invest as IFAD in smallholder farmers and rural enterprises, enabling them access to finance, technology, and markets. IFAD promotes inclusive value chain, climate resilient agriculture, and youth and women entrepreneurship through innovating financing models that we'll talk about shortly. We have a strong footprint in West and Central Africa, where IFAD has invested in 54 programs with a total value exceeding $5.2 billion and benefiting approximately 11 million people. And specifically in Côte d'Ivoire, where I'm leading the portfolio, I lead and design implementation of the country program, and we support currently 553,000 rural households through 8 projects with a total portfolio of $665 million in investments. So in a nutshell, this is what we do as IFAD, and this is my role specifically as IFAD. I'm really delighted and honored to be part of this panel, and we look forward to the interesting conversation. Over.
Thank you, Dr. Herman. Now let me turn the floor to Mr. Robin, who is a Senior Investment Manager at Company. Mr. Robin, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. I'm a Senior Investment Manager at Company, indeed, an impact fund based in Brussels. Our fund has been active since 10 years now, and our approach is to focus on the missing middle. So a lot of rural actors have financing needs, which are too big for microfinance, but still too low for a lot of investors. And that's that gap that we aim to cover. So we do loans between 100 and 500,000 euro or dollar to cooperatives and agri-MSMEs. So far, we have invested in more than 30 entities in 16 countries, and 70% of our portfolio is on sub-Saharan Africa. And so I'm really looking forward to this discussion from an investor perspective.
Thank you, Robin. Next is my friend, Mr. Shola Mfula, who is a program officer for agribusiness and investment at Auda Nepal. Shola, you have the floor. I saw him connected early on.
Yeah. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. My name is Cholam Fula. I work with African Union Development Agency in the Directorate of Agriculture, Food Security and Environmental Sustainability. My specific role is, I think when you look at CAADP Kampala and the 6 commitments that have already been alluded to, commitment 1, which is intensifying food production, grow industrialization and trade, and commitment 2 on boosting finance and investment for agri-food systems transformation in Africa. Those are the 2 commitments that I primarily focus on. But because the food systems approach, then the other commitments also become as important in terms of how we do things. So really that is my background, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm looking forward to the deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, Shola. Now let me invite Mr. Jallo Tijani, General Manager of Agro-Baydar. Monsieur Jallo, vous avez la parole.
Merci, Amadi. Bonjour à tous et à tous. Moi, c'est Mohamedou Tidjane Diallo, président directeur général du groupe Agro-Baydar Sénégal, donc qui est une organisation qui a été mise en place depuis 2015 et formalisée en 2020, portée à 80% des jeunes et composée à 80% des jeunes et des femmes, qui est dans l'agriculture avec grand A. Donc, c'est de la production jusqu'à la commercialisation en passant par la transformation. Donc, nous jouons un rôle très important dans l'écosystème entrepreneurial aujourd'hui. Donc, l'objectif, c'est d'accompagner le processus de la souveraineté alimentaire, la nutrition, mais aussi la création de richesses à travers les activités agricoles. Merci.
No, thank you. Merci, Mr. Diallo. Thank you to our panelists for your insightful introduction. Before we move to our next round, let me just remind ourselves that CAADP has 6 strategic objectives, as Dr. Semben has mentioned. It has 22 targets and it has 48 areas of intervention. We're not going to go into the details, but the most important one is one on access to finance, which is couched within the strategic objective number 2. We move now into round 1 of our discussion, which examines the current landscape of MSMEs financing and the bottleneck that persists across the continent. So my first question will be addressed to Mr. Eric Sile. Eric, from the ABS experience across multiple value chain, what have been the biggest challenge and key lesson from supporting agri-MSMEs through the matching grant mechanism?
Thank you very much, Dr. Diop. I will talk about the matching grant fund, which I will sometime also address as the MGF. So the matching grant fund is actually a key instrument of GIZ business support facility, which offers up to 200,000 euros to micro, small, and medium enterprises operating in cashew, cocoa, livestock, and maize value chains. So these enterprises, which are identified also as bankable, they are bankable because we've done a vigorous review process of their financial statement and their procedures as well. They also co-invest substantially because this is a matching grant fund. So they invest 60% of their own contribution in the cashew value chain and 50% in the cocoa, livestock, and maize. To date, we have about 109 ongoing contracts, demonstrating that there's a strong demand and trust from the micro, small, and medium enterprises. So we are not even able to meet that demand because every time we do launch calls for proposals, we do receive hundreds of applications that we have to go through, as I said earlier, through a very rigorous process. Our experiences have shown that grant funding alone does not guarantee sustainability. What ensures long-term success is a comprehensive support package that includes capacity building, innovation, market linkages, and South-South cooperation. And that is what we are doing in this matching grant fund component of of our project. So in terms of capacity building, sustainable micro, small, and medium enterprises are built on skills, not on subsidies. So we provide targeted training on value chain promotion, gender transformative approaches, using adult learning methods. We also have blended learning via the Agribusiness, e-Academy, and e-Move, and face-to-face sessions. We mainly focus on some technical and business modules, such as the Farmer Business School, the Processing Business School, the Cooperative Business School, and the Inclusive Contract Farming, which are different tools that have been developed by GIZ. So this training, we have noticed that they strengthen the micro, small, and medium enterprises management capacity. They reinforce the operational efficiency and long-term viability during the grant project. So this is a big contribution to the MSMEs that we are working with. So in terms of knowledge exchange and market linkages, our support goes beyond capacity building. We facilitate business-to-business linkages. There's a lot of learning that is happening among the matching grant fund projects or partners that we have. We do also facilitate market access opportunities through the different webinars or trainings that we have, or even through the South-South exchanges. We encourage peer learning and South-South knowledge exchange. We also facilitate partnerships with buyer, processors, and service providers. These connections actually open new markets, foster innovation, and help MSMEs integrate into competitive value chain. All these training and knowledge exchange and market linkages are to strengthen the matching grant fund, which we perceive as a de-risking instrument. Beyond financing, the matching grant fund acts as a catalyst for formalization and financial inclusion. You will hear it from one of our MGF partner who is here today. We will be talking about how from the matching grant fund, his venture was able to access some other funds. We have had examples like that. For companies also who told us because they have limited exposures to financial institutions,
just one question, maybe. I'm sorry to cut you off. You're going above the 4 minutes I allocated to you, but I just want to give you maybe one following question. Out of the 109 ongoing contracts, are they all supporting MSMEs in Africa or globally?
Okay, yes, thank you, Dr. Joe, for that question. Yeah, the support is in 79. We are mandated to work in the 79 countries of the Organization of Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific states. So these countries, we do not work in all the 79 because what we do, we have a request for applications out there. We have calls for proposals, sorry, and countries. Different countries apply and in the 4 value chains, and we focus only in the 4 value chains that I've mentioned earlier. So just another minute and then I will finish. So I was saying that many of these MSMEs enter the program, which have entered this program have limited exposure to financial institutions. And at the end and during the time that we are working with them, they learn how to report on activities. They learn also how to manage grant fund transparently. Some of them have said that they haven't gone through such vigorous capacity building program. They also learn how to meet commercial and compliance standards. So these financial partners can leverage the MDF's commercial eligibility checks and the capacity building journey that the MSMEs have undergone so far. In other words, MDF reduces risks for financial institutions, paving the way for future private capital and long-term investment. Because as Lynn was saying earlier, this project will have an end. So the key lesson here is clear. It is not only about providing grants, it is about building resilient, investment-ready agribusinesses. By combining finance, skills development, market linkages, innovation, South-South cooperation, the business support facility ensures that these micro, small, and medium enterprises are equipped to thrive long after the project ends. Thank you.
No, thank you, Eric. I hope like my next panelist will not take too much time in answering the question because I want it to be more interactive. So Dr. Arman, let me come to you. The matching grant fund that ABF has promoted is showing that there is a benefit for supporting MSMEs. IFAD has long supported rural enterprises. So what kind of lessons have emerged from financing inclusive MSMEs, especially for women and youth-led one? Eric has started touching on it, but I'm sure maybe you can tell us from the IFAD perspective, what are the lessons that we can draw from supporting MSMEs?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I agree with him that it's not only about funding. Actually, my strong belief is that where there is markets, funds will follow. So you can't just put the money before making sure that the MSME access the market. And building long-term robust access to markets means, first of all, that the company or the enterprises is strong, has the fundamental in terms of managing businesses, has the fundamental also in terms of having enough inputs. Because as companies grow, you will see that the need for input grow. You also need to have access to market in terms of what are the suppliers, for example, access to supermarket, access to export opportunities, or even, I would say, regional trade. So all those building blocks need to be put in place. And then, of course, you also want to work with the financial institutions, putting in place the matching grants, capacity building the financial institutions so that whatever need of the entrepreneurs are out there, those needs can also get accommodated. And then beyond the matching grant, you also want to crowd in other private investors, such as, I don't know, private impact funds, patient capital, and I think one of them is around the table. So you want to start building an ecosystem where once the project or once the matching grant ends, then you have also other stakeholders that can carry over. So you can have the matching grant and then start building some instrument where, for example, I would say social impact, social investors or impact investors or financial institutions such as microfinance institution, commercial bank or mesofinance service providers can come in.
How can we segregate those instruments to be youth and gender sensitive?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's about the training and first of all, getting the insight of what are the challenges that the youth, and the women are confronted to, right? I mean, we know that there are some there is lack of collateral, for example, that youth are facing a lot. There is also the social norm that women are confronted to. Access to land access to some type of asset can be limitation. So as you are building the matching grant, for example, you need to incorporate some of those conditions. As you are doing the technical assistance or capacity building, you also need to build in some components that will help break those barriers or overcome those barriers by the target population. And also when you work, for example, with the financial institution or any type of financiers, let's say in terms of collateral requirements, in terms of account opening requirements, you want to work with them so that they can incorporate some of the limitations or some of the challenges that those target population are faced. But above all, you also want to work with those, women and youth, so that you can break the blockage that they are facing when it comes to access to market. Because at the end of the day, the market will thrive. Will thrive. As the market thrives, then the access to finance will become more continuous and permanent.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm taking note that market will bring needs. Matching grant can help crowd other funds. We have to create an ecosystem with more instruments, and those instruments have to integrate basically some condition so that they can be youth and gender sensitive. No, thank you very much. I mean, this is very insightful. Let me maybe go to Mr. Robin. Mr. Robin, you have listened to both Eric and Dr. Herman. So we started with the issue that matching grants are important, but they are not enough. Then we have seen some lesson drawn from the experience from IFAD that I just summarized. But you have basically your hand on the deck from the company work. What does it actually take for cooperatives and agribusinesses to become investment ready from your experience?
No, thank you very much. And for these two previous interventions, I think the angle that we look at it is indeed complementary. To answer your questions, I think for us, what we at Campani, we really look at models that are already profitable, I would say, but that needs a scale up. And so we're trying to fill a gap which is unexisting in the market that normally in an ideal world, local bank or local investors could do. So typically, when we maybe an advice, that when speaking to investors such as us, would be to have the financial part ready, of course, because since we are a fund which is providing debt, the first thing that we're going to assess is the capacity to reimburse, at least from our perspective, from a debt provider. So having the accounts, if possible, audited ready, but also the funding need related to a project and already some estimations of returns, of forecasts or an expansion plan, which is ready. This is really the typical information that we look at. Maybe another tip on that side is also to be conservative, at least for debt providers. It's good to be very ambitious, but also when you're talking to banks or like to debt provider, to remain relatively conservative in the forecasts. And also, I think we're all aware that this is a process that take time sometimes. So it's important to free up time to answer some information requests, but also to spend time in a due diligence process, which typically for an investor like Campani, it's up to 4 and 6 months from day one to the disbursement.
Maybe just a follow-up question before I go to the next one. I'm trying to see here where we have bottlenecks along the value chain. I mean, the matching grant, Eric very brilliantly said to us, okay, it's a grant that we're giving to you, but you are investing a part of your capital into the process, and that's why we're matching it. So can we say that not having the money to match it is a bottleneck? This is number one. Number two, you mentioned the capacity to reimburse the funding. Is that also another bottleneck? And then you said the institutions that are benefiting from the funding need to have an expansion plan. Can you just tell us maybe, because we have a lot of people here in the audience that are interested in, let's say, coming to you and asking you as a company to support them. What is the threshold that a company has to meet for them to benefit, let's say, from support from your organization? Because I just want to list the kind of bottleneck that they may face if they go to you, and they can also assess themselves based on what you're going to be saying.
I'm not sure that I can mention all the bottlenecks in 4 minutes. No, but I can
at least the big ones.
But to your point, it's true that the matching grant is a great instrument. It's a great growth instrument. At first, at some early stage, I would say, for businesses that are a bit at earlier stage. What we typically look at for us, to assess if a model is stable enough to be supported from us, we look at the track record. So we ask entities to exist for 2 to 3 years already. As I said, to be profitable, to have also an impact which is well defined, because we're an impact fund with smallholder farmer. I'm talking here really about Campania experience, because our goal is really to improve the livelihood of smallholder farmers at the end of the day. And then also have an indication of activity, because to be able to reimburse a debt between 100 and 500,000 euro or dollar, then we ask to have an amount of sales or activity, which is usually around, it needs to be above 300,000 euro. So we use a couple of these, I would say, indicators to screen the projects that we receive.
Okay, 2 to 3 years of existence, impact well defined, 100 to 500,000 euros as a capacity to reimburse. If I can summarize,
and that's where there's probably the difference between a grant ready or a grant needed financing.
Okay.
It's to be profitable.
So, but at the early stage, having like basically the machine grant is a must. No, thank you very much. Let me maybe for the sake of time move on. Let me invite Mr. Shola maybe to come on board. Shola, you have heard the 3 intervention. My question to you is how can CAADP and Kampala financing agenda will help de-risk private sector investment in agriculture value chain? You heard that Eric in his intervention, he was mentioning that the matching grant not only is a catalytic fund, but also help also to de-risk. But are there other instruments that can help to de-risk so that MSMEs can go into the business with a lower risk and also higher value impact?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. And I think also thank you to the previous speakers. So I think whenever you're talking about investments, I think there are 2 key determinants. That's the returns, and then there are risks that are associated with that return. Now, you must know that risks will always be there. I think the key thing is what are the measures that are there that has been institutionalized in order to mitigate or manage that risk. And sometimes then if the risk is very high, but if the returns are high enough, you'll find that people always take that risk because the returns will justify risking your money. Now, when we talk about returns, every investor is interested that if you put $1, it will come back. At worst case, and we're having this discussion this morning here in Cape Town, that the threshold for determination is about 50%. If you can determine at the very minimum that 50% of what you invest will come back, then at least you are in a position to make an investment decision. Now, that also is associated with the risks. And agriculture has a lot of risk, climate risk, economic risk, political risks. And I think it's quite a lot of risks around it that we need to make sure that we have the institutions for that to happen. Now, if we do not really work on these risks and have the mechanisms of doing it, then the investor confidence will always be quite low. Now, we are looking at it in terms of how do you institutionalize and how do you make a system that enables an investor to come on board using whether it's Pan-African Union institutions such as the Africa Risk Capacity, the Africa Guarantee Fund, the DFI such as IFAD, AFDB, and many other players to create the mechanisms that mitigate some of that risk in order to increase the investor confidence in those particular value chains. Now, you will find that the risks in agriculture based on the value chain and where you enter it from, they are very different. So the mechanisms and the products also need to be quite different. So when you look at CAADP Kampala, there is an emphasis that we need to have these mitigation measures institutionalized to a point where even within the national agriculture investment plans, there must be risk mitigation measures. Now, these are very different from social safety net things. And we're looking at it in terms of if an investor wants to come on board, they can look at the plan and say, these are the mechanisms that this country has. So therefore, even if I invest and things go wrong, at least I'll be able to get at least that 50% back. Now, we're also really working in a challenging environment because the risks have been increasing in not only magnitude, but also in frequency, particularly those related to climate and climate change. So even if we do not have the kind of funds that can safeguard or rescue these businesses when they're affected by these risks, then clearly we're going to have a situation where a lot of businesses are going to be failing in the process. And once that fails, it creates an impression that this is a sector that's just unmanageable. It's a sector that you don't want to invest in. It's a sector that you want to run away from. And then once that happens, then we'll be left with just public sector investments. And because that is public sector investments, their bias is towards the development case. And once that happens, then we will sort of not be able to create this farming as a business scenario that we've been talking about for a long time. So it's part of the mix. Clearly, it's important. I think then you also have to look at it in terms of when you look at risk and returns, what is the role of public sector and what are they going to invest in, so that then we start looking at those. So if we're not really looking at those two matrices, for instance, we can talk about the last mile as an example when you're looking at input distribution, and that's the most expensive mile that people have, because to get your inputs to your farm, people may have to use donkeys and many other things. So it's quite expensive. Now, if you look at it and say, okay, fine, what are we going to do about the last mile? Because the last mile is so expensive, that cost is then absorbed within the value chain and it has to recuperate it somehow. So you get a situation where once the produce is ready, that cost is already absorbed within that.
Shala, let me interrupt you here for a minute. When we were in Malabo and Maputo, the idea was to finance agriculture. We need to use public fund, like a 10% of government public expenditure. Now in the area of Kampala, we're saying public expenditure is not enough. We need also private investment, and then we have a target of bringing raising $100 billion to invest into agriculture. So my question was, how Kampala financing agenda can help de-risk private sector investment in agriculture value chain? I understand basically that you're saying, okay, if we balance basically the rate of return versus the risk associated to the investment, we can bring. But how does this fit within the bigger agriculture agenda, where we now saying to finance agriculture now from the public policy point of view? We need not only to have the public investment. I was thinking along the line that, okay, public investment will basically help de-risk by creating the incentive for private sector to come to invest. But anyway, I just want to hear your perspective on that part.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. But when it comes to the whole thing of, you can de-risk a sector and still have very low returns.
Correct.
So public investment is important because it will work on both sides. You know, for instance, if you improve the infrastructure, irrigation, energy, not only are you going to increase returns, but you can also you also be able to reduce risk. within there. So we can leverage public investments in that way, and we can track it to work on both sides of it. Because as you've rightly pointed out, I think that if the risks are too high and the returns are too low, private sector is not going to come. So we can smartly use public sector investments to increase risk and reduce risk and increase returns, and create a trade-off using public financing that to reach a point where we can then attract private sector investment. So it's really part of the whole structuring. You need public sector investments for it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I mean, let me maybe we'll follow up on it on the next segment. Monsieur Diallo, vous avez écouté tous les gens qui sont du côté des financements. Mais vous êtes un opérateur et vous êtes sur le terrain. Voilà, donc vous êtes un opérateur et vous êtes sur le terrain. Donc la question, c'est que je voudrais savoir, de votre perspective en tant qu'opérateur, quels sont les obstacles auxquels vous êtes confrontés quand vous essayez de mobiliser des fonds pour appuyer Agro-Baydar?
Merci, Hamadi. Oui, il y a plusieurs obstacles en réalité. Donc, d'abord, disons que les organisations des producteurs, tous ceux qui sont dans l'agroalimentaire, surtout du côté de l'Afrique, d'abord, il y a un problème de formalisation d'abord. Donc, ça, c'est un problème qui est là. Donc, la deuxième des choses, les conditions de levée de fonds à travers les banques ou certains partenaires financiers sont très compliquées. Donc, les organisations en phase de maturité, ils ont des problèmes pour accéder à ces financements-là. Donc, je pense qu'aujourd'hui, c'est une situation que les gens doivent revoir, surtout les conditions. Parce que quand on demande à des jeunes d'avoir des garanties comme le foncier ou des garanties matérielles ou des garanties financières, parfois c'est très compliqué. Quelqu'un qui veut développer son entreprise, s'il avait ses moyens, il n'allait pas demander de l'aide en réalité. Donc ça, c'est des difficultés auxquelles sont confrontées à ces organisations, mais aussi l'accès au foncier aussi, c'est un problème majeur, et surtout l'accès à certaines informations. Mais donc ça, c'est vraiment des problèmes auxquels sont confrontés en réalité nos organisations qui sont vraiment là pour accompagner en fait le processus du développement du secteur de l'agriculture en réalité. Voilà.
No, merci, Mr. Diallo. From the audience, we have like a chat box. You feel free to interact with the panelists through the chat box, and also feel free also to make some comment in the chat box. Maggie, let me give you the floor. If there are anything that came out from the chat box, maybe you can enlighten us, or if you have also some comments that you want to make, please feel free. Maggie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Hamadi Diop, and to the speakers, panelists so far. We have over 10 questions, but in the interest of time, I'll highlight about 3, and maybe we can take it from there. We have a question from Joseph Flatwell. I think it's directed to Eric. He says, if I heard it correctly from Eric, he said that the grant fund conditions that beneficiaries, MSMEs, have to contribute 50% of the investment. So he's wondering, is that so? Again, to Eric, Hassan Obathemi says, please confirm whether your program supports farmer groups that are in the early stages of self-organization and require organizational development support. We're exploring opportunities for strengthening a target farmer group, and I'd like to know if this falls within your current interventions. There is an interesting question we also got for Robin. I think it's from, please forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, Fresh Ling. He says, thank you for the interesting discussions. I'd like to direct my questions to Robin. As a debt investor, what types of collateral do you typically require from your targets during the screening process? Also, how would you say your approach differs from that of commercial banks, allowing you to provide capital to SMEs in emerging markets? There is also a question from Cote d'Ivoire from Tindo Kevin Coffee. He says, I'd like to know whether, considering your focus on youth-led and innovation-driven agribusiness models, I'd like to know whether your funding mechanisms also support research, laboratories, development plant point of care diagnostic systems that could strengthen cooperative farming and early disease management. I guess he's trying to understand if there is, support in terms of research and etc. But we have a question from Riel Diaco who says, how do all of these organizations that I've spoken concretely work to support local commercial banks? And the last question
support local commercial bank.
Yeah, mesofinance institutions. And all these organizations, facilities also support or strengthen the local banks and financial institutions to have adapted financial solutions for agri-MSMEs. Not sure if I read it well. And one last question that I thought was interesting from Alain Rousseau. He says, are you simultaneously working on the national legal framework, enabling microfinance institutions to offer more appropriated financial support to normally rejected applicants? So I think those are some of the few questions we are receiving. There are still others coming, but it feels like the audience is excited and they have lots of.
Okay, let me make this suggestion to the panelists for the sake of time, because this segment we are almost 1 hour into the discussion. Eric, I will ask you to react to these 2 questions very rapidly, and then I will ask basically Robin to react to the question on collateral. The other question, I invite the panelists to basically interact with through the chat group and respond to the question as much as they can, so that we can move to the next round. Eric, please, you have 3 minutes maximum.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Diop. I won't even need the 3 minutes this time. So the answer is very clear. I mentioned the 4 value chains in which we provide the matching grant fund in. In the cashew value chain, the contribution is 60% from the enterprise. And then in cocoa, livestock, and maize value chains, the contribution is 50%. That is expected, and the contribution could also be in kind. The other question that was there was about
do you support farmers group at early stage?
Farmers group. So the support is along the value chain. So production, commercialization, processing. So we work along the whole value chain, marketing and stuff.
No, they're talking about early stage, meaning that if someone is a startup, they are just freshly starting into those value chain, do you provide them support?
A startup, not that much. We encourage also consortiums, and we have also had projects that are working across different countries. So I think one requirement is to have been in existence for 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. So startups are not that encouraged.
Okay, so similar to what company was saying, you have to demonstrate that you have been in business for 2 to 3 years. Robin, you want to come in and address the question on the collateral before we move to the next one?
Yes, sure. And thank you for these questions. Again, I'm going to talk about it from a company perspective and talk about our model, but there are other models on the market. Also, you can find more details on our website, campani.org. But in our approach, we do not take collateral, and that's a very important factor because we position ourselves as a long-term partner, but without taking collateral and only financing infrastructure. That way, our investee can also build a bit their balance sheet, but also use these infrastructure to unlock local financing. So that's for the first question. On the second question on the approach, am I going through the 3 questions, Dr. Diop?
No.
Just on the collateral.
This one came from the floor. So we're going to go now on our second round.
Okay, sounds good.
So on the second round, let me maybe invite Dr. Herman to come on the floor. Dr. Herman, which blended finance instrument have proved most effective at reaching last mile rural MSMEs. From the IFAD point of view, I know like IFAD does a lot of things into the rural space, and I have collaborated with IFAD on numerous projects, and I'm really impressed every time I hear what you guys do. But here I'm asking, what are
which one have proven more effective? I mean, effectiveness depends on the context. So if you are in an emerging country, middle income country like Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, you are not talking about effectiveness the same way when you are in a fragile country, and I don't want to name, but a country that is subject to political instability, that is subject to climate challenges, droughts, for example. You're not talking about effectiveness the same way, but we have the requirement. We do have to support MSMEs across. So first of all, is really building the foundation and building blocks. That's what I spoke about. Structuring the value chain is very instrumental. But once you have all those things in place, okay, like the value chain and structure, capacity building for producers organization, they have access to market and so forth. What proved more effective? We believe, I personally, I'm a proponent of getting the market to work. Okay, so you have to, of course, have matching grants in place. The matching grant, there are different modalities of matching grant. You can have, the two parties matching grant. You can have three parties matching grants that involve financial institutions. You can have matching grant that involve suppliers and off-takers. So there are different modalities and different way of approaching the matching grants. Then beyond the matching grants, you also have input revolving fund, for example, that you can also put in place. So all those are a lot of matching grant components. Then gradually, as the market matures, or depending on the value chain also, because some of the value chain are more structured than others, you can have value chain where you have also a higher margin than others. If you take horticulture, for example, even within horticulture, you have certain goods or certain species that have, or varieties that have higher margin than others. You have perishability. You do all those analysis. Then you look at what type of instrument and how you can bring and crowd in the private sector. The private sector being financial institution, being patient capital. We work a lot with the OECO credit of this world. We work a lot with social investors so that we do some combination. Let's say we'll have the first loss capital. So if the investment can support the first 30, 40, 50% of the loss in case there is a challenge. And then you have like gradually the private sector after first cycle, second, three, fourth cycle, as the market become more structured, more matured, then they will take over, let's say in year 5, year 6, year 7 of the project. So these are approaches that you can have. But one thing is important is also the policy, and that's where the CAADP principle, the CAADP and Kampala declaration comes in place. You cannot have a change of agri-finance if we still continue to measure or to have same prudential regulation for agriculture as we are having for non-agricultural kind of sector. Let's say you measure oil industry the same way you measure agricultural sector in terms of risk. It doesn't work. Unfortunately, commercial bank right now, the way they are structured, this is what they follow. They follow very same regulations. So there is a work that needs to be done on the policy and on the regulatory aspect. We have good experiences such as GILSAL in Ghana, which was supported by AFDB and other players like AGRA. I used to work with AGRA, but you also have other type of guarantees that can also come into play. And those guarantees de-risk and also allow the crowding of the private sector, be it commercial bank, financial institution, microfinance, mesofinance, and name it. What I can also talk about is a concessional kind of lending. So you can have some lending that allow you to say, okay, if you are doing some kind of green green activities, or let's say carbon capture, and so there's a mechanism to measure all those contributions to greening the environment, and you can have access to concessional lending. So GCF funding, the JEF funding. So those funds, we at IFAD also unlock them and we provide them, meaning that we work with financial institutions to provide lower interest rates. Then you also need to look at other innovations such as innovation to encourage the private sector to on-lend at lower rates. So the whole structuring of the value chain, the capacity building that Eric was mentioning earlier on. And also you can have some interest that are rebates on interest rates for early repayment and so forth. So there are a couple of innovations that we can explore And also, how can we look at other type of collateral? Because some of the participants mentioned, okay, as if you don't have collateral necessarily or assets from day one. So can we also, just like microfinance institutions are doing at the beginning, can we leverage, for example, on digital to reduce the information asymmetry so they have a better visibility on what are, I mean, I think my colleague Robin mentioned, okay, we want to see that the company or the organization is credible. Of course, he's looking at bigger size, but for smaller tickets, how can we leverage on digital tool so that you can track and have a better assessment of the credibility, the viability, and the credit worthiness of the entrepreneur that want to access. And last but not least, we can also look at supplier credit. So we strengthen a lot the big companies like the Olam of this world so that they can also in turn work with MSMEs, which are upstream the value chain, because they may not go to the last mile, but they can work with producer organizations, with cooperatives and others who will obviously feed them with those inputs. So without going too much in the detail and considering time,
can I challenge you a little bit? I listened to you very, very carefully. So you said, okay, we need to structure the value chain.
Right.
Once we structure them, we need to create the capacity to deliver.
Correct.
Once we created that, we need to get the market to work.
Correct.
And then you said, okay, once we have all three conditions realized, now we need to create the matching grant. And then we need, after that, now the ecosystem start expanding.
Yeah.
Then you touch on a very, very interesting point. You say, okay, for all these things to happen, we need to work on the policy side. Now, my question to you is the following. Since the 60s until now, vous partez, je vais parler en français même d'ailleurs, vous partez dans n'importe quel pays africain, vous avez ce qu'on appelle des banques agricoles. Ou bien on appelle des crédits agricoles, des banques agricoles, etc., etc. Ces banques ont été créées avec exactement le processus que vous avez décrit. Mais après 1 année, 2 ans ou 3 ans de fonctionnement, ces banques, au lieu d'appuyer les exploitants agricoles, les banques définissent à peu près une trentaine de critères pour dire que ces institutions qu'on doit appuyer sont des institutions à risque. Et pourtant, on nous dit que 60% de notre force de travail est dans le milieu rural, et vous travaillez beaucoup dans le milieu rural. On nous dit que 80% de ces 60% sont des petits exploitants agricoles. Pourtant, ces gens continuent à générer leurs propres ressources et à investir. Mais pourquoi on n'arrive pas à créer cette passerelle entre ces investissements qu'eux ils font et les banques agricoles qui existaient dans le temps?
Alors, vous avez posé 2 questions. La première question, c'est par rapport aux banques agricoles. Les
Oui.
banques agricoles sont soumises, lorsque vous êtes une banque, vous êtes soumise à la même réglementation qu'une banque commerciale, il y a un problème. Donc, les réglementations, et quand on prend un pays comme le Ghana, ils ont défini, par exemple, une réglementation pour GIRSAL, qui est un instrument de garantie, où il y a zéro risk weight asset. C'est un peu technique. Ça veut dire quoi? Ça veut dire que lorsque vous amenez de la garantie, d'accord, même dans le secteur agricole, ces garanties ne sont pas considérées comme solvables de façon critique, de façon traditionnelle, sauf quand la Banque centrale donne une exception. Donc ça, c'est par rapport aux réglementations. On ne va pas rentrer trop dans la technicité ici. Mais lorsque vous donnez des exceptions, ça veut dire que les éléments de garantie marchent mieux. Vous avez l'adéquation de capital aussi au niveau des banques, au niveau des institutions financières. On demande un certain capital lorsque vous êtes dans le secteur agricole. Et lorsque vous êtes dans le secteur agricole, les exigences sont encore plus strictes et plus difficiles. Parce que justement, on considère qu'il y a beaucoup de risques. Mais si vous commencez à dérisquer ces éléments, si vous mettez par exemple une assurance paramétrique, assurance agricole, d'accord, ça veut dire que vous réduisez la perception du risque par la banque commerciale. Si vous mettez une réglementation qui est souple, pour dire, OK, lorsque c'est un risque agricole, par exemple au Nigeria, ils ont fait ça, mais parfois aussi toutes ces banques agricoles, lorsque elles sont fortement portées par l'État, elles ont également des problèmes de gouvernance. Donc, normalement, une banque doit être autonome. Mais lorsque, je m'excuse, un ministre va appeler le directeur de la banque pour lui dire donne du crédit à telle ou telle entreprise parce que c'est voilà, une coopérative qui doit voter pour moi, vous comprenez qu'il commence à y avoir des problèmes. Et beaucoup de banques agricoles dans le temps, dans les années 80, ont souffert de ça. Après, dans les années 90, il y a eu la disparition de plusieurs banques. Mais quand vous prenez un pays comme le Mali, la Banque nationale, la Banque nationale de développement de l'agriculture est toujours présente au Mali. Mais le problème, c'est que malgré qu'elle soit présente, la réglementation à laquelle elle est soumise fait qu'elle va demander les mêmes types de documents que si elle veut, par exemple, donner du crédit à quelqu'un qui fait dans l'or. ou bien dans leur paillage. Vous voyez un peu. Donc, du coup, il y a un problème. Et nous savons que l'agriculture est un secteur spécifique. C'est pour ça qu'il faut des exemptions. Il faut une réglementation spécifique à l'agriculture et encore plus au MPME lorsqu'on parle du secteur agricole. Et lorsque nous rentrons dans une logique des systèmes alimentaires, vous savez très bien que c'est de la fourche à la fourchette. Du coup, on ne doit plus voir l'agriculture juste côté production, juste côté accès au marché, mais on doit voir toute la logistique. Quels sont les coûts des facteurs de production? Parce que si vous parlez, vous mettez juste le matching grant, vous résolvez une partie du problème, mais ce n'est pas durable. Et c'est pour ça que je parlais des fondamentaux. Il faut que le coût de l'énergie soit facile pour qu'un entrepreneur sur le long terme puisse continuer à faire des marges. Il faut que les normes et standards auxquels vous êtes soumis lorsque vous êtes une PME ne soient pas la même que quand je suis en train de fabriquer le beurre de karité. Ça ne va pas être la même chose que la Solibra, la société qui est en train de fabriquer Coca-Cola. Mais en général, vous n'avez pas au niveau des institutions de standards des variations et des différenciations. On va vous demander les mêmes types de papiers, les mêmes types de certifications ISO, par exemple, que la grosse entreprise. Ça ne peut pas marcher. Donc, il faut que nous mettions de la souplesse dans la réglementation, et c'est tous ces aspects de réglementation dont je parlais lorsque je parlais des policies. Il faut également que l'État soit beaucoup plus fort. Lorsqu'on parle de 10% pour la déclaration de Kampala, il y a également il y a des outils qui permettent de tracer, de voir les contributions, parce qu'il y a certaines contributions qui sont invisibles et invisibilisées. Donc, tout ça, évidemment, pour les NPME que nous avons en face de nous, ça peut sembler des éléments trop loin, pas très proches d'eux. Mais malheureusement, lorsque ces fondamentaux ne sont pas réglés, au-delà du matching grant, vous n'allez pas avoir une réponse durable. Vous voyez un peu. Donc, c'est un peu pour ça que nous, au niveau du FIDA, on essaie de
merci.
travailler.
J'ai bien pris note et je pense que vous avez répondu à ma question. Mr. Robin, let me come back to you. I know, like during the first round, I pressed you for 2 questions, and I went really into. I wanted you really to identify where the bottleneck are. But you do a lot of work with co-ops. Can you tell us maybe in 3 minutes where co-ops fall short, and what are the gaps that the co-ops are being confronted with, and how maybe can we address them? Maybe in just 3-4 minutes.
I think, yeah, thank you for this question. The first part is that is already been mentioned by one of my colleagues is the formalization. So, you know, the access to information, having accounts that are, you know, audited accounts. It's not mainstream, I would say, for cooperative, but it's needed to have a fair picture of the financial structure and the financial health of the entity. So the formalization of the information is one. The second thing, I think that sometimes investors are a bit reluctant to look at cooperative is maybe the governance, you know, okay. Which is not as formalized as well or than SMEs. And this is paradoxical because in a way what we see on the market is that cooperatives are usually very resilient due to that governance, the fact that it's members owning the organizations, you know, and that in some like coffee cooperatives or to name them, you have a role, you know, of every 2 years, there is some change into the members at the board of these entities. Sometimes it can be very beneficial, but this is usually overlooked, I guess, from some investors. And the way that we address these bottlenecks with Campani as well is that we usually ask to be, as an investor, to be part, to name a board representative, you know, that can be there as an observer, so that along our investments, we also have, you know, some presence with the co-op to tackle these shortcomings.
Okay. One maybe follow-up question. Your company, what is your geographical coverage? Do you invest? You said you are based in Brussels, right? But do you work significantly in the continent, supporting African MSMEs?
Yeah, so we have today, we were a fund of 15 million. We'll move up to 20 million to give you an idea of size. And 70% of our fund are and will be dedicated to sub-Saharan Africa.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just asking the question because maybe in the audience we may have like a lot of companies that are from the continent that may have some interest maybe in reaching out to you and or your company probably. I'm assuming that you have a presence online. Like if someone type company, they will be able to locate where your company is.
Yeah, so we have some information on our website where you can see our countries of action and if we're already active or not in a country. I must say that we have a priority of country in sub-Saharan Africa because one of our model is also relying on the local partners that we have on the field. So we are, the way that the company works is that we have NGOs which are shareholders and that have been active in the field for a while. And so we prioritize the country where these NGOs, such as Ricolto, Trias, are working. This is how we actually select our geographic action in sub-Saharan Africa.
Thank you. I have been told that we are not doing good on time management. So let me maybe go quickly to Shola. Shola, you and I, we had discussed this during the retreat we had in Nairobi about a month ago, looking at how Kampala financing target be operationalized at country level through investment pipeline and value chain aligned program. Can you share with us some of your thoughts on this? If you are still with us, I know you have some time. Oh, okay. We can benefit from your expertise. You are here.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for that. And I'll be quick. Yes, I think within the CAADP Kampala, there is a target to raise $100 billion from both public sector and private sector, because that's what is envisioned you need to foster food systems transformation across the continent. Now, I think it's quite important that when we look at this figure, we start thinking about the innovative ways in terms of how that can be done. So I think some of my colleagues already touched upon that. So the whole issue of blended finance models is quite important. How do we use some of the money, say, from the DFIs to de-risk some of the commercial funding? That will be quite important. The whole issue of climate financing and instruments. How do we leverage the green bonds in terms of bringing all that to agriculture? Issues on credit and insurance guarantees. Those kinds of mechanisms will be important. Diaspora, there is quite a lot of money that's coming in from there, but a lot of it is unstructured. It just comes through various Western Union and other money transfer platforms. How then do you institutionalize that in terms of using it for funding purposes? And then some of them, I think my colleague from IFAD touched upon these issues on performance bonds and sustainability linked loans, where you can sort of tap into some of the green climate funds based on your performance around issues on climate and nature positive outcomes. Now, I think when you get into structuring this, you need a lot of public and private sector collaboration. And that's why I was mentioning that the whole issue of public financing becomes very important. So it's not really just about hitting the 10% target within CAADP, but I think how you're using that money, the quality of the public expenditure, and how you can leverage that to bring in more private sector money becomes very important. So we need to really think and rethink a little bit on that, because as you said, some of it, I think it was my colleague from IFAD said, some of it is invisible. But in this case, how do you leverage, for instance, $1 of public investment, how much private sector can it leverage? Now, that requires us to think a little bit more in terms of how we sort of structure these kind of collaborations. And then also, I think we need to really look at it in terms of the policy. Now, the policy, again, it's so we need investments, but we also need to make sure that we look at the policies that will create that investment or foster that investment or accelerate it. So we need to really engage a lot with the private sector, because we don't want to sit and prescribe certain policies and hope that then they'll create a certain reaction from them. I think it's important we engage with them in terms of how we create these policies that will enable this investment to come through. So that engagement and having deliberate platforms for engagement, that will be important. And then also, I think we also need to look at the whole issue of research extension. Now, a lot of that is really public financing. So again, let's look at how we can have quality public financing into agri-food systems transformation that will leverage private sector investment through that process. So a structure like that will be very important moving forward. Thanks. Let me stop there for now.
No, thank you. Let me go maybe to Mr. Diallo. Monsieur Diallo, vous avez écouté tous tous les techniciens, vous êtes du côté opérationnel. Est-ce qu'il y a des instruments financiers qui vous ont été proposés et qui ont fait une différence vraiment dans votre entreprise et comment ça a contribué à faire la différence?
Ok, merci. Donc, nous avons, depuis que nous avons eu à bénéficier quand même l'accompagnement du MGF, donc je pense qu'on reçoit tout le temps des propositions. Par exemple, aujourd'hui, avec FADCR de l'État du Sénégal, donc, nous sommes en train d'accompagner plus de 1000 jeunes qui ont accès à des financements à travers des institutions financières aujourd'hui. Et la garantie, c'était le contrat que nous avons signé avec ABF. C'est ce que nous avons amené comme garantie aujourd'hui et qui nous a permis aujourd'hui de faire des levées de fonds avec FADCR. Et aujourd'hui, avec le FIDA, c'est l'occasion aussi de remercier le FIDA qui ont beaucoup impacté chez nous. Et d'ailleurs, pour le moment, avec le projet Agri-Jeunes financé par le FIDA, en pleine Casamance, nous sommes en train d'accompagner 150 jeunes qui vont recevoir des subventions qui recevront des subventions des mains de Agri-Jeunes. Et l'autre partie, c'est des banques que nous avons contactées pour compléter quand même leur contrepartie pour pouvoir développer leur activité. Et tout ça, c'est lié vraiment à l'activité que nous sommes en train de mener à travers aujourd'hui ABF. Donc, c'est pour vous dire que ABF a beaucoup impacté donc dans nos actions que nous sommes en train de dérouler. Et il y a Eric aussi qui est en train de faire beaucoup d'efforts pour nous mettre en relation avec Campani pour recevoir quand même un financement pour mettre en place une unité de production d'œufs et une unité aussi de fabrication d'aliments de bétail et de volailles. Donc, c'est pour vous dire qu'aujourd'hui, nous avons eu à recevoir d'autres financements qui nous ont vraiment aidés à améliorer les conditions de la productivité, mais à permettre quand même à nos bénéficiaires de mieux développer aujourd'hui leur activité. C'est pour vous dire que le projet ABF, en tout cas, il est d'une importance capitale pour nous.
Non, merci. Ça, c'est le point que vous venez de faire est très important. ABF a été un fonds catalytique, mais c'est devenu aussi un instrument qui vous a permis de mobiliser des fonds additionnels. Maggie, do you want to come in just quickly, but just summarize what's coming on from the chat from this round? But we're not going to ask the panelists to respond to it for sake of time. Maggie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Hamadi. I think panelists are trying to the sense we are getting, and there are lots of questions. I wonder how I can really bring them to speed. But for example, Martha is wondering from Chola's intervention, do we bridge or facilitate the movement of private sector investment beneficiaries into private investment space and avoid perpetual dependence on the public sector? Okay, what I am real sensing is that they really want to understand that gap between the real producers and maybe smallholder farmers and banking institutions or private investors. So, for example, you have a question from Obafemi who says, how do we intentionally place farmers at the center of these innovative financing instruments so that the solutions truly reach them, strengthen their participation and build resilience? I just wanted to say, Dr. Hamadi, if we can probably highlight a few questions from the speaking audience. I'm not sure if you can maybe highlight 2 or 3 to some of the speakers. So that they have a sense of what the audience is actually trying to also make sense of, given that we have different participants from across the continent and beyond.
I think my understanding from what you're saying is that people want the farmers to be at the center of the innovation instrument. Yeah. Whether it's from the company part, whether it's from the IFAD side or from the African Union side, whatever is done, it has to be farmer-centric, and the farmers have to be on the driver's seat. Let's just keep it at that for now. Let me move into the third round of questions, and then I'll bring you back again. Monsieur Herman, je veux encore revenir vers vous. comment l'expérience du FIDA dans le financement des producteurs dans le milieu rural peut être mis à profit dans le développement des plans nationaux d'investissement qui sont anticipés dans le CAADP. Comme maintenant nous avons une nouvelle déclaration de Kampala, donc les pays vont développer des plans nationaux d'agri-food systems et comment les financements de FIDA peuvent jouer un rôle dans ça.
Alors,
Là,
merci
on va dans les solutions, quoi.
Oui, d'accord. Merci, Dr. Diop. Alors, pour ce qui concerne les plans nationaux d'investissement agricole, le FIDA contribue par le biais de ces projets. Nous avons différents projets des investissements dans les différents pays. Donc, à la demande des ministères de l'Agriculture ou bien des groupes de travail qui s'occupent des systèmes alimentaires dans les différents pays, nous investissons, nous pouvons contribuer à faire des études, nous pouvons contribuer à donner des leçons, à donner des meilleures pratiques, mais nous évitons également de le faire seul parce que nous savons très bien que cette question ne peut pas être résolue par le FIDA seul. Donc, nous travaillons en général de concert avec les autres institutions de financement du développement, qu'il s'agit de la Banque mondiale, de la BAD, de la BADEA, de la BID, ainsi de suite, ou bien de la BOAD, de la BIDC, dépendant des régions. Ou bien, voilà. Donc, nous allons travailler avec les autres institutions de financement et développement seules pour contribuer financièrement à faire des études pour contribuer à déterminer les meilleures stratégies les plus adéquates. Et aussi, nous mettrons à contribution les différents projets parce que par les investissements que nous avons en cours, nous savons ce qui marche, ce qui ne marche pas. Donc, ça permet de passer à l'échelle des solutions. Par exemple, les solutions de matching grant, nous pouvons dire ça peut marcher dans telle solution, dans tel contexte. Dans tel contexte, il y a d'autres solutions plus adaptées. Dans tel contexte, il faut aller vers des solutions digitales. Il faut aller vers des solutions d'investissement d'impact. Il faut aller vers la prise de participation sous forme d'equity avec des fonds souverains, par exemple dans le cas de pays comme le Gabon, ainsi de suite. Donc, dans chaque pays, nous allons déterminer les solutions, les investissements nécessaires et nous allons aussi déterminer les politiques qui sont importantes. Par exemple, est-ce qu'il faut soutenir la transformation de riz au niveau local dans les pays de la côte? Est-ce qu'il faut soutenir la production d'aquaculture? Est-ce qu'il faut soutenir les petits ruminants, ainsi de suite? Et quels sont les éléments fondamentaux? Donc, voilà un peu ce que nous faisons au niveau du FIDA et nous complétons tout ça avec vraiment les éléments d'accès au financement qui sont critiques. Et nous travaillons évidemment que ce soit avec les banques publiques de développement. Hein, vous avez parlé des banques agricoles tout à l'heure, mais aussi avec d'autres acteurs comme les investisseurs sociaux. J'ai parlé de EcoCredit. Maintenant, nous avons Capital, le fonds d'investissement aussi qui est avec nous, Robin. Tout ça. Donc, tous ces acteurs qui sont dans l'écosystème, on essaie de travailler avec eux. Voilà, donc c'est un peu ce que je peux dire.
Non, merci, merci beaucoup. On a pris bonne note vraiment des solutions qu'on peut mettre en place pour amener les choses à échelle. Let me switch maybe to Mr. Robin. Mr. Robin, what kind of innovation you foresee emerging with company investment model over the next 5 years?
You mean at the level of the cooperatives, right? And
yes,
the
at the level of the cooperatives, yeah.
So, I mean, the innovation in terms of, could you just specify your question?
Well, in the continent at the moment, you have like so many, we have at least 300 people who are online now who may be interested in saying, okay, yes, well, we are starting now. But let's say, the kind of requirement that company has now, we don't meet them. But maybe company may evolve into something that may be more attractive. So what are those solutions that you may foresee in the next 5 years that may expand your base in terms of supporting co-ops in the continent, and maybe even reduce basically the $500,000 to 50,000? Maybe that's what respond to what we have in the continent, so that people will be more eligible.
So I think there are a lot of tools to be able to help rural entities. We've mentioned a couple of them. Matching grant is one instrument. I think there's also an action to be done also for local bank. If you do guarantees more at the state level, guarantees to financial institutions, that will also incentivize and streamline, you know, the provision of financial services to these actors. Campani is just one solution, one actor, and where we have a very specific scope, and we're aware of that. I would say that the first part before being able to apply to Campani is really to reinforce or to make sure that your business model is well established. So that's one. So to be able to show that you are dealing with a lot of smallholders, that your supply chain is working, but really you want to go to the next stage of growth. So an example that we work on is that it's a cooperative that wants to diversify. For example, we have this example in Ghana, a cocoa cooperative, which wanted to do some dry banana, buy some banana from the members, dry it, and have a drying machine so that they can start exporting also some dried banana pieces. So typically, this is a well-established cooperative. It's a growth plan. They're struggling to find, you know, funding for $200,000 to fund the machine. This is typically what Campani would be look at. So unfortunately, we're not able to do everything, but I would advise, you know, the entities to try to reach out to actors providing technical assistance and the actors on the market that are helping or providing grant or that are helping these entities to develop their business plan and to firm up a bit their financing need. That's an advice. Unfortunately, we're not able to do that ourselves, but it's a requirement in our approach.
No, thank you. Shola, let me come to you. In the continent, we talk a lot about basically public financing, and then you have touched really on it in the last two rounds. So my question now to you is, how do we ensure the long-term sustainability of financing ecosystem beyond the donor-driven cycle? But here, like really, what I want you to address is the issue of private sector engagement. How can you bring private sector engagement into the different initiatives? I know you run CAPEF at one point of time, and probably you have some other instruments that you have developed through NEPAD. I just want you to share with us maybe a few instruments that can really help look beyond the donor cycle and beyond the project cycle, but in terms of sustainability in financing agriculture in the coming years.
Now, thank you, Mr. Moderator. So I think we're at a stage in development on the continent where certain luxuries are going away. And one of them, I think, is this whole thing of donor funding, because the geopolitics have changed so much that if we do not become smarter in terms of how we make interventions, then we'll find ourselves in deep trouble. So it's very important that when it comes to this whole thing of investment, we can't follow the traditional way of doing things. We get grants, we throw them there, and then we hope that this change happens. I think we need to look at it quite from a business point of view, that this is money that is being invested, whether it comes from the public sector or the private sector. I think it's important that we look at it in terms of both returns and and risk, because if we don't do that and the donor space is changing so rapidly, then we won't have anything to invest. So under CAADP, we have tried various instruments, some with various degrees of success, but I think it's nice because had we not tried them, we wouldn't have had a springboard to take these things forward. So one of them is a country agribusiness partnership framework, which we've tried in a number of countries. This framework really is a platform where the public sector and private sector come together, look at the various value chain within the National Cultural Investment Plan, and look at the various transaction dependencies that they can work on together to unlock both investments. And then from then onwards, we then monitor it in terms of how that happens. The other things that we're looking at is also what we're calling the country compacts now, very similar to what AFDB and others have done, but particularly within the value chains, because again, if we do not bring partners together to collaborate, because everyone's bringing their own competences within this, then we will not be able to unlock this value chain. So the compacts will bring the public sector, private sector, DFIs, and other partners to there, and then we look at the value chain, do the various diagnostics, look at who's responsible for what, and then we can take that forward. We're looking more closely also at around the cooperatives again, simply because it allows us to explore alternative financing at that particular level. So that is also another tool that we're looking at. And then this whole thing of diaspora financing is also becoming, I think, as an alternative as well. So a lot of it's around alternative financing, because we know that either, as I think our colleague from IFAD said, whether you create a specialized agricultural bank, they still follow the controls and guidance through the central bank. So, and agriculture is a specialized sort of sector which needs a various different kind of financing. So unless you change the whole architecture, it becomes quite challenging. So we have to look at alternative financing. And then through that process, we can then see how to develop it. I think that we've had examples from Rabobank, which started as a cooperative bank, and that's what it is. It's a much bigger bank now. So we'll look at those kinds of tools, and the toolbox will not be static. We'll be creating more and more tools and throwing them there, and the different countries will be using the tool that they need for a particular situation.
No, thank you, Shala. Let me maybe do, for the sake of time, we still have 20 minutes left. Let me open up maybe the floor to the public and get 2, 3, 4 questions from the audience. If Maggie is here, can you help me out maybe to identify 4 people, and then we give them the status to come online and raise their questions or make their comments?
I think we have Eric Kisi, who has his hand up. Laban Ayo, could we bring them to the floor, producer? Yeah.
Eric, you can go ahead and unmute and ask a question.
Eric, you please unmute yourself, Eric. You're in.
Okay. Good. Ghana here is 2:41 p.m. Yeah. My name is Eric Kisi. Yes. My question is to Mr. Robin. Well spoken, and then actually access to finance is actually a big problem in Ghana. Let me say, because the interest rates are very high, the tenures are not favorable. You hardly get a moratorium. I just want to find out from Ruben with their debt financing, what is the allowable moratorium period? What is the tenure? Also, and then also what's the interest rate that they give? Yeah.
Thank you. Can we, Robin, wait
Yes.
a minute. Let's take both questions. Maybe the second question will be addressed to you before we move
Sure.
on.
We have Laban Ayo. Maybe we can take 3 questions if okay, Dr. Hamadi and Shadrach. So we can take these and then.
Yeah, let's take Laban and then we. Laban, vous avez la parole, or you have the floor, Laban. Laban, votre micro est fermé. Your mic is closed. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I'm Laban Ayo. I'm calling from Kenya. And I wanted to ask a question. Currently, we are working with many smallholder farmers. And through ABF, we have managed to come up with a cooperative that could help farmers so that they get how to consolidate their produce, and then we get an off-taker. But now the question I wanted to ask, I didn't get it well. Is it possible we could get better financing model from the potential funders, because currently in Kenya, the banks would want to give us a loan at a rate of around 18%. Then with that, because we want to help farmers to do input financing, and we are in the maize value chain. So what could we do, or is there opportunity we could get a better international or a long-term rate? Thank you very much.
Can I ask you a question? Who are you addressing your question to?
For the people who could give financing, sorry, I can't.
Okay, is that addressed to Robin or Miss Dr. Herman? Or
Either
both?
you could help me, yes, direct it.
All right, thanks. Let's get Dr. Herman, Mr. Robin to react to the first question and Dr. Herman to the second one.
All right. Yeah, I can take the first question. Thank you very much. I've also replied, I think, on the chat on that. So typically, when we are not a grant provider, that's very important. So we are an investor, and we do that on the long term. So our loans typically, in terms of tenor, is between 5 and 8 year long. It's quite a long period, and it's important to mention that we do not take collateral. So we finance infrastructure, we don't take a collateral. So that's the unique approach. It's quite risky. And for this, in terms of interest rates, it depends, but it's aligned a bit with the market on the long term. It will depend from country to country, but it will come as a cost for the company. So that's why it needs to be profitable, and we assess the reimbursement capacity. You mentioned the moratorium. Typically, we understand that if you need to build a warehouse or buy a machine, it takes some time for the machines to be delivered, etc. So we can give up to 12 months. That's our approach, 12 months grace on the capital, right? So that means that you would start paying on the capital after a 12 months period. That's our approach regarding CAPEX.
Ok, mais Dr. Herman, vous pouvez répondre à la deuxième question de Mr. Laban du Kenya?
Yes, I can respond. I think because the question was in English, do you want me to go in English or French, Dr. Diop?
It's up to you. We have translation.
Okay, perfect. So Laban, you mentioned that you are in the maize value chain. You're working with smallholder farmers, and you are looking for, and you do a bit of input finance. You want to know what other opportunities are there to get some finance. I would say, first of all, maize is a value chain that's is a low margin value chain. So if you want to stick to maize, you know that it's going to be a bit difficult, except if you have guaranteed off-takers. So I would encourage you to do a good mapping of the different off-takers. You can also look at some warehousing options where the value of the maize, will grow when there is less or when there's a higher demand in the market rather vis-a-vis the supply. You can approach some of the breweries. So I would like you to take, first of all, a commercial approach. And then, of course, you can also scan in the environment. You can work with the WFP, you can approach World Food Program, for example, because they may also need some, although they have some standard, so they can also give you a premium for your produce because you are working with smallholder farmers. You can approach some of the IFAD projects in country to facilitate the access to market linkage. And I will also say, look at the different smallholder farmers that you are working with. If you could also diversify a bit and then bring in some horticulture, higher margin produce, if you have a contract farming with them, and then you can also support them. That will help you diversify, reduce the risk, because the more crops you grow, all things being equal, if you grow 2-3 crops, then you reduce the risk. It's not just a bullet advice like that, a silver bullet advice, but these are some of the things I could give as an advice. There are a lot of financial institutions in Kenya. There are the credit unions, the microfinance institutions, the commercial banks, and so forth. So that will be, and also a couple of guarantee funds. You have also some private investors that may be interested. You can also explore adding value to your produce rather than just selling the maize right like that. Is there any value addition, especially working with some cooperatives, that they can make so that the margin and the net value of the final produce that is taken to let's say the flour, can you process it into flour so that you can increase the value rather than just selling it like that? So those are small things. If you have good technical advisory or business development support that could help you explore and improve the sustainability and the profitability of your venture. So that's what I would say at this table.
Thank you. Maggie, do we have some more hands raised from the floor? Maybe we can.
Have many, but I would like to take a French speaker if possible.
Yeah.
We have Shadrach Ogu, but could you please put your hand up?
We'll take two more and then we'll move to the last segment of the.
Okay, we can take Fred Kwasi as well, producer. And Guy Malin Ngwenang. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. I think we can take him too.
We take those two and then the others will invite them to go to the chat, please.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Donc, Monsieur Fred Kwasi, vous avez la parole.
Allô?
Oui, bonjour.
D'accord, bonjour, merci beaucoup. En fait, moi, c'est pas vraiment une question, mais c'est la dernière intervention, en fait, avec des suggestions, notamment pour améliorer la rentabilité qui me paraît vraiment évident. Nous, on travaille sur les chaînes de valeur, la chaîne de valeur maïs. Et
vous êtes en Côte d'Ivoire?
Au Cameroun.
Au Cameroun, d'accord. Merci de préciser.
Oui, éco-trading au Cameroun. Et donc, avec une seule chaîne de valeur, des fois, il y a une fluctuation des prix de la saison. Et justement, avec les banques, ce n'est pas toujours facile de... jusqu'à maintenant, c'est ce que nous avons essayé de faire avec une seule cette chaîne de valeur. Et pour moi, vraiment, ce conseil est important. Et l'autre élément, c'est comment ajouter de la valeur au produit. Nous sommes dans le négoce, on a mis en partenariat, en fait, la connexion des producteurs et les grands marchés. Nous, on cherche le marché. Mais un autre élément, c'est justement comment ajouter de la valeur. Vendre toujours brut ne nous permet pas d'avoir la marge nécessaire pour pouvoir assurer une certaine durabilité, avoir accès au financement. Donc, c'était ce point que je voulais, en fait, cette remarque.
Non, c'est un point important, on prend très bonne note de ça. Donc, juste vendre le produit brut, ce n'est pas suffisant, il faut acheter de la valeur. Donc, pour l'intérêt du temps, je vais demander à Fred Kwasi de...
Allô?
Oui, Fred, vas-y, vous avez la parole.
D'accord. Alors, moi, j'ai une préoccupation. Je voulais vraiment, au sortir de ce webinaire, d'abord, je suis Fred Kwasi, je suis consultant financier. J'ai bossé pour Technoserve Côte d'Ivoire sur le département Access to Finance. Donc, aujourd'hui, en fait, je voulais qu'au sortir de ce webinaire, on puisse avoir une liste d'organismes de financement agricole avec, si possible, le numéro ou l'email d'un point focal. Là, après le webinaire, on peut poursuivre en fait les échanges par rapport à chaque besoin de chaque personne ou chaque institution. Parce que ça serait vraiment dommage avec ces personnes de ressources qu'on a aujourd'hui, qu'on puisse ressortir de ce webinaire et puis il n'y a plus de point focal. On ne peut plus faire de nest tip.
Est-ce que je peux peut-être vous poser la question suivante? Bon, dans l'intérêt du temps, c'est juste oui ou non. Est-ce qu'on ne devrait pas créer peut-être une plateforme d'échange où on peut tous être dans la même plateforme?
Super, c'est encore plus intéressant. Votre idée est encore mieux.
OK, donc c'est bon. Shadrach Ogu, if you can promise me that you're going to keep it short, I will give you the floor.
Okay. Thank you very much, my experts. I'm Shadrach Ugu in Nigeria, precisely in Enugu State. My question goes to Dr. Dauda and Robin. Yes, you know, cashew value chain, there's a lot of waste in Africa, especially here in Enugu State, where most of our land embraces cashew production. My question is that there is a project made in Enugu State called APIS Project, sponsored by the World Bank. And my company, Summers Agro Limited, was called upon by the project, the appeal, to put on a project to carry my cluster cashew cooperatives along. So at the end of the day, the project built cashew processing center nearest to where the factory is located, being Summers Agro Limited. And today, I don't know the way about, because they provided some facilities, automated machines there. And I don't know whether GIZ have a way to help us. I even asked this particular question when we went for technical training to Abuja last year.
Shadrach,
Sir.
if you have a question, can you just raise your question for the interest of time? We have 7 minutes left and I want to close it on time.
So my question is that how can we, the off-taking company being Summers and the cluster cooperative under the production that supplies raw material, how can we be projected financially so that we can be able to have automated machine and go ahead to do our export? We are prepared and we're ready for export, but the issue is automated machine to meet any required order. So this is actually my question on the way to see that we stop some waste of byproduct in cashew value chain. Thank you, sir.
So this is what I'll promise to you. This is not the first and the last webinar. We'll park your question until the next one, and I promise you will answer to it. Because for the sake of time, I need to close. We have 6 minutes left. Let me maybe see whether Lynn is here or Dauda, and maybe ask them to. They have listened to the panelists, whether they have maybe 1 or 2 messages that they want to share with us in terms of next steps. Dr. Semben, if you are with us, you want to come in, just maybe give us 1 minute, whether there is something that you see as next step for us.
Well, thank you very much, Amadi. I think I've been listening with a lot of interest to the very insightful discussion that we have had today with our experts and also the audience. I mean, if there are any takeaways that I would get from this discussion is actually there is a lot of indeed challenges that can make it difficult for African SMEs to agri-food SMEs to be able to access to financing. But if we listen the solution and the insight that were made today by the expert, I think there is a number of sort of a solution that can be implemented. And I think we've seen what GIZ, IFAD, and other organizations have been doing on that front. And I think this is a good way to build on that moving forward. As far as we're concerned, we look forward to continuing this type of session for knowledge sharing and exchange, this sort of peer-to-peer learning opportunities. We are committed to working with our partners that we have today, whether it's GIZ, AUDA, NIPAD, but also IFAD, to very much have to create more opportunities for learning. So we're looking forward to continuing that as next steps. And thank you again also, Amadi, for also facilitating this and for your very adept moderation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Semben. This is what I was expecting to hear, like in terms of next step. Lynn, you want to give us maybe some few words on the next steps? You have listened to everyone. I know you have been in this space for quite some time.
Yeah. Can you hear me? I'm not sure.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, first of all, I think I would like to thank all our panelists and also other experts sharing with us the experience. And of course, my big thanks to you, Amadi, for the facilitation. And of course, also from the lady, I have forgotten your name, I'm really sorry, but facilitating all these questions. Say it again.
Her name is Maggie.
Exactly, Maggie. Thank you very much. So I was really impressed because I think such an panel on expert talk, managing the technical part, and also have all these kind of questions at the same time, and try to satisfy and to answer all the questions and interests of the participants. So congratulations to all of you, and thanks all the audience for being here with us. My takeaway is that I have heard a lot of bottlenecks, but I have also heard about solution. I really impressed of the work of the company. Thank you very much for this information. One takeaway from my side is also think more about the cooperatives. I think, yes, in our matching grant fund, we have SMEs, but we also have cooperative. And we have a couple of training courses focus how to strengthen the organization, the management skills of cooperative. I think this is something that we can also continue on working on it, stay in touch with company to see where can we collaborate together in the future. I would like also to thank the colleague from IFAD, the country director from IFAD, Dr. Hermann, for being with us. I think I have been in my former time working very closely with IFAD. It was an excellent collaboration between IFAD and GIZ at that time. So thanks also to Chola for sharing with us at this very, let's say, political and the Kampala Declaration. It is very important because we're not talking sometimes the value chain is really a cross-cutting, not cross-cutting, cross-countries value chain is not staying in one country. So therefore, the Kampala Declaration is very important to share it with all different African countries. I have learned much about and confirmation from your side that the market is determined for the value chain development. And the production sometimes play a less important role. It's very hard to push the market if the market is not, let's say, the driving element for the value chain development. So from my end, I'm very looking forward to the next step. Amadi, you have said this is not the last expert talk on access to finance. I'm looking forward to the next edition. And of course, if you have ideas to say that I would like to learn more, one of the participants has also shared the idea to stay in touch, has a platform and has this kind of matchmaking between the SMEs and the financial institutions. I think this is also one idea that we can keep it up for the next activity. So thank you very much from my end.
No, let me take a few minutes to say thank you to all our panelists and participants for an excellent discussion. We have heard from Lynn and from Dauda that this is not the end. On that, this is the first of many to come in terms of next steps. But allow me now to offer maybe a short, what I call synthesis of synthesis structure around the 3 rounds with 2 key messages per round. First of all, we saw that matching grants are important. Access to finance, however, access to finance remain constrained by structural barriers, and those include weak record, limited collateral, and high transaction costs. So these foundational issue must be addressed for any financing intervention to succeed. Second, we have heard that investment readiness is the single biggest missing link. Strengthening businesses, planning, governance, as Eric indicated in the first round, and financial discipline is essential for MSMEs to become bankable. Then in the second round, we heard that matching grant and blended finance work, and they have proven their value. But the next stage is to use them very strategically to crowd in private capital rather than substitute for it. Fourth, we saw that patient, flexible, impact-oriented capital is essential for agricultural transformation and must be expanded. Then fifth, we saw that the CAADP Kampala financing target must anchor national investment pipelines. It gives strategic direction. It helps to have political leverage, and it also helps have a framework for value chain investment. Lastly, we heard that sustainability requires a stronger ecosystem. So it means we need to have capable co-ops, cooperatives. We need to have functional market, as was mentioned many times. We need to maybe leverage digital systems. We need to have alignment between governments so that the financing will only scale when these elements move together. So thank you once again to all our panelists, partners, and participants to this valuable time and insight. Today's conversation contributes directly to the African effort to strengthen agri-financing system in aligning with the CAADP Kampala Declaration. Let me thank all those who have worked behind, who have worked behind to make this webinar a success. I'm talking about basically the team at Africa Link, Africa Catalyst, who have been working tirelessly over the month and a half to design the program and make sure that everything works well. Thank you also to the team from GIZ. The communication team just has been phenomenal, and I wanted to highlight it so that Lynn and Dauda will hear about it. Then let me thank also the people who have been behind also doing all the interpretation. So this has been a successful webinar, and we're looking for the next one. So with that, let's close the meeting here, and I thank you all.
Thank you. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Everyone.